I've bought and sold a couple of houses in Spain over the last few years, and I'm currently in the middle of renovating my latest purchase. But sometimes I wonder if I should own a home in Spain or not, and I think about how to best help others answer that question for themselves. Hi, my name is Nicole. Welcome to my channel, Travel to Money. Today, I want to look at the pros and cons of a home ownership in Spain, not for the purpose of saying one way is right or wrong, but to bring some thoughtfulness to the conversation and hopefully be a resource for those of you who are considering this endeavor. I love Spain and I love having a home there, but I do sometimes wonder if it's worth some of the hassle. Let's start with the pros of homeownership in Spain. First of all, Spain itself is an awesome country with pretty good infrastructure and great public services. It is beautiful with everything from mountains to beaches, historic sites, and modern conveniences. Spain is also easy to travel to and from with 36 international airports, the ability to take ferries and cruises, trains throughout the country and into Portugal and France, and the public transportation is great in the big cities too. The culture is rich, the people are kind, and the language is not a super difficult one to learn, and healthcare is both good and affordable. Speaking of affordable, if you're coming from places like the US or the UK, you'll get a lot more for your money in almost every category. Recently, I did a video about some of my favorite things that I save on in Spain, so you can check that one out too. So now that we've covered some of the reasons Spain is a good place to live in general, the next thing on my list of pros is that the process of purchasing a home in Spain is relatively straightforward. Not really all that complicated, especially if you're paying in cash. If you want to know the details about the process to purchase a home, I have several videos on the topic, and I also offer one-on-one coaching on my website if you need someone to walk you through the process and give you referrals. One of the things that I've really come to value about owning a home in Spain versus if I were renting every time I come is that I've been able to build a community. I have friends who I look forward to seeing on every visit. I know the streets, the stores, the festivals, and more. I think having community is maybe more important than I realized in my earlier years, and that is something that I am so grateful for. Another pro to owning your own place is that you can make it your own. You don't have to wonder what you're coming home to every time you visit. Now, this next item might be a pro or a con depending on how much you're planning on spending and how often you would be there. I found ridiculously good prices on my homes, and some of that is because of the street I'm on. It isn't particularly awesome, but I was able to purchase homes that are less than most cars in the US. It was an easy path to home ownership. It's nice to know that because my latest home was paid for in cash, I always know I have a place in the world I can go and stay if I need to. Unless there is a pandemic, because I'm not a resident. But you know what I mean. It's just so nice to know that if I went through a hard financial time, I'd have a place I can go for 3 months at a time. I'll come back to the cost in a little bit because I want to do the calculations and see if it actually saves me to own a home in Spain. Another thing that is great about owning a home in Spain is that it gives you the opportunity to offer a free place to stay for your friends and family. That is huge. I love that I can tell my friends to go visit whenever they want and that they don't have to worry about the cost. On that same note, if you wanted to, depending on the local laws, you can rent out your home in Spain when you're not there, either long-term or short-term rentals. I would only need to rent my house for a month or two and it would pay all my taxes and bills for the year. My street isn't the best spot for rentals, so it's not something I do much of, but for most people, it could be a good option, especially if you aren't going to be using your house during the summer tourist season. You will get a lot more in rent during that time. Another pro is that you know what you're getting with services like Wi-Fi. I have traveled the world and I work from home, so there is nothing worse than showing up to an Airbnb and finding out that the Wi-Fi sucks. I can't even tell you how much stress that has caused me over the years. But I know that at my house in Spain, I have super fast Wi-Fi and I only pay 20 bucks a month for it. I don't have to worry about that and it's such a relief. On a similar note, even things like being able to keep certain staples in the pantry, I can leave a whole bunch of clothes so I don't have to travel back and forth with much, and knowing that I have my kitchen full of the cooking essentials that I like to use. Okay, now let's talk about some of the cons of homeownership in Spain. The first thing I think of is the bureaucracy. There is a lot of it. If you want to do anything to your house, I mean anything, like change the countertops in your own kitchen, you are technically supposed to go through the local town hall and you have to pay a fine or a tax or something to update your own house. It's that kind of stuff that as an American, I'm definitely not used to. Now, I don't have a problem with Spain doing things the way they want to. I'm a visitor, so I have respect for their process, but I would definitely say it's more difficult. Another example of bureaucracy is the recent situation I had when I purchased one of my homes. Any home that had previously been repossessed had to be offered back to the government at the purchaser's price, and the government has 2 months to respond and say if they want it or not. So basically, there's this process that adds 2 months onto the purchase of some homes, and it's all generally for nothing. I've never heard of the government actually saying they wanted one of these homes. Another con to buying a house in Spain is that there are no central systems for home listings like there is in the US. Understanding what a home is actually worth and things that seem easy at home in the US seem to be a lot more difficult in Spain. Even though I mentioned a pro of having community, the flip side to that is that when you come to Spain and you have a house, you probably want to be home. And that means less exploring versus if you were renting and you could literally just visit a different area of Spain on every trip. So let's get back into the money part of this. Although I purchased my first home for just 20,000 euro, 20,000 euro will go a long way towards rentals in Spain. And that doesn't count the money that I put into maintaining the home or paying taxes and utilities every year. Right now, I'm visiting Spain about 4 to 5 months per year. I could easily find rentals for $500 a month. So if I was spending $500 per month and staying for 5 months, that means that I'd spend about $2,500 per year if I wanted to visit and just rent. That means that $20,000 would last me 8 years of visits to Spain if I used it for rentals instead. And if you count what I pay in taxes, utilities, and maintenance, it would probably last another 4 or 5 years if I put that money toward rentals. So if you could get a place to stay in Spain every time you come and the same amount of money covers you for 15 years, is that worth it to skip out on the hassles of homeownership? Well, I guess we all have to consider the fact that if you own the home, then you also have equity. So after living in it for 15 years and getting that base rental value out of your home, you could still sell it and get a lot of what you spend back or even more, depending on the market. Real estate always seems to be a good investment. But it's one of those things where you have to weigh what you value because you might value travel and not having to deal with much. And maybe that leads you down a rental path instead of an ownership path. For me, homeownership in Spain has come with some big ups and some really hard days as well. But overall, I'm personally glad that I made the leap and bought a home in Spain. The good times have been so sweet. And the bad times make for really good stories. I can't imagine not having my community in Pago. I'm so very thankful. What about you? Have you considered these things that I've discussed today? Would you add anything else to the pros or cons list? I'd love to hear from you and chat about it in the comments. Do me a big favor, like this video and subscribe to join me every day where travel and adventure build financial freedom. I can't wait to see where your dreams will take you.